Let's get back to that breaking news now. We told you about just a few minutes ago. The Justice Department is now appealing a judge's decision to end the federal mask mandate on public transportation just minutes after the CDC made the recommendation. Correspondent Janelle Fort joins us live from CDC headquarters in Atlanta with more. Janelle.
Well, yeah, Ruta Bay, as you said, that new information coming in just minutes ago, the DOJ filing that appeal in Tampa today after the CDC requested them to do so. And the agency is saying that it believes that the federal mask mandate right now is still necessary for public transportation. Now, the CDC went on to say that it believes the mandate is, quote, a lawful order well within CDC's legal authority to protect public health. Now, the next steps really depend on how quickly the courts move, and it's unclear whether action will be taken before that mandate was set to expire on May 3rd. Anyways, what this means for travelers, though, is that you could have to put those masks back on if the courts do rule in favor of the DOJ. Not immediately, but soon if that's the case. So one of the things that could happen is the DOJ could go ahead with this lawsuit, or the DOJ could do a stay. So Ruta Bay, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, Janelle, thank you. And we turn now to Washington, D.C. with more on this breaking news. And our D.C. insider, Washington Bureau Chief Mike Becerra joins us now. So, Mike, yesterday the Biden administration said it would only appeal the court ruling if the CDC believed it was still needed. That has now happened. What's next?
Well, this is a really startling development, not only because it happened so quickly, but if you read between the lines on this, Ruta Bay, it really does appear that the Department of Justice is not going to ask for any kind of emergency injunction, ask for any kind of stay to overturn this court ruling from that federal judge in Florida that dropped that bombshell just a couple of days ago. They are going to file an appeal and go through the usual process. And what does that mean? Well, I can tell you what it's likely to mean. It's likely to mean that passengers on airplanes, on subways, on buses, on any form of federal transportation or any transportation at all that's funded by the government will not have to put those masks back on before May 3rd, when that latest mandate was set to expire. Remember, it had been pushed back already. Initially was set to expire on March 18th and April 18th, and then for 2 more weeks until May 3rd. That was just announced last week because the CDC said that it was trying to determine whether or not this new variant, the BA2 Omicron variant, was necessitated for that people continue to wear their mask. And I think it's significant because I'm just going to read very briefly from the CDC statement when they say at the very end, when people wear a well-fitting mask or respirator over their nose and mouth in indoor travel or public transportation settings, they protect themselves and those around them, including those who are immunocompromised or not yet vaccine eligible, and help keep travel and public transportation safe for everyone. Okay, I'm joined right now by The Hill, our friends at The Hill, and the national political reporter, Julia Manchester. This is a startling decision in so many ways. Over the course of the last 3 days has really been one surprise or another. This is not only the CDC making it clear that this is a public health consideration, but there are also political considerations here.
There are political considerations, and we know that this mask debate across the country, Vic, has really divided Americans. At the same time, though, over the past 3 days, I found it fascinating when we watch the news, we're on Twitter, we see those videos of crowds cheering when airline pilots announce that people can take off their masks. But polling tells a very different story. In fact, if we look at the recent NewsNation decision
we have a new poll out just today.
Yeah, it shows that 65% of respondents in that poll said they would be in favor of a returning mask mandate if they were concerned about the emergency.
Surge.
Yes, a new surge. So I think it goes to show you that this is not cut and dry. There's a real divide here. And ultimately, I think this decision only piles onto the confusion that a lot of Americans feel right now. I mean, to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, what's safe?
I think as of right now, the way I'm reading this decision and everything I've heard so far, it appears that the masks are not going to be required to be put on, not today, not tonight, and probably not tomorrow, because, again, it does not appear that the Department of Justice is asking for any kind of emergency injunction or any kind of stay. I was struck. I ride Washington subway, the metro, every single day. There were about 90% of people who still had their masks on today. But you're right. This has been a controversial issue from the very start. Members of Congress have been pushing back on this, but still it appears that a majority of Americans still do favor, even though it is a relatively slim majority, wearing masks for public health reasons.
Absolutely. And I think when we hear coverage of these surges, whether it was Omicron last December and, so many Americans really suddenly got COVID during the holidays, or the emergence of this new surge, it's concerning to a lot of Americans to hear. The question I have is, what Americans do now. It's like I said, this is very confusing what to do. And I think especially last December, last January, during the Omicron surge, the shortage of tests, the CDC saying you need to quarantine for 10 days, then saying it's 5 to 7 days. That was a real dent to their credibility.
It makes it hard to believe that they could go back tomorrow or the next day or even next week and say, put your masks back on for another week. That is, I think that's probably a bridge too far. And we've been talking all along about expecting some sort of revolt against mask wearing. I think that might be the trigger. But Rudabeh, there's one other very interesting legal question here that we haven't talked about, Julia. A lot of people were talking after this came down about the need for the Department of Justice to challenge this Judge Mizell's ruling in Florida, because if they didn't, it would set a precedent and it would hamstring or tie the hands of presidents of any administration going forward and really restrict the CDC or an administration's ability to act in a public health crisis. But there's another twist to this, that if, in fact, the Department of Justice appeals and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, there's a real chance that the Supreme Court would uphold that ruling from Judge Mizell, and then stare decisis, precedent rules all, and when the Supreme Court rules, that means that would be the guiding legal principle for the law of the land for years to come. So a lot of angles here for everyone to consider: political, legal, public health.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Supreme Court, the lights went off in my head. The political side of the Supreme Court. We have a conservative-leaning Supreme Court thanks to President Trump. That judge in Florida, Trump-appointed judge. I think this entire saga this week that we've seen unfold show us that elections do matter. They impact legal rulings in this country.
And, constitutionally confirmed judge by the Senate, nominated by President Trump after he lost the election, but still deemed not qualified by the American Bar Association, but the Senate voted her in. She is a sitting federal judge. That's the constitutional process. One other point on the Supreme Court, and we're talking about the CDC. They stopped the CDC from the halting the eviction moratorium. In other words, kicking people out of their domiciles because there was a pandemic. The Supreme Court, this conservative court, said you could no longer do that. So perhaps that's a hint, Rudabeh, as to what we might see if this does come to the Supreme Court, but still a legal tangle, a public health tangle, and certainly a political problem for the administration now, Rudabeh.
Absolutely, and a problem for flight attendants. I'm sure they are all gearing up for a lot of drama there. And another interesting point, that this can only be enforced by the TSA. It can only be lifted by the TSA. So another federal agency entangled in all of this confusion. All right, that was Mike Vaquera for us, leading that panel from Washington, D.C., and we will be right back after this break.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.